To enable the successful launch and recovery of the initial stages of Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, as well as both stages of Starship, several new technologies had to be developed and tested. The secret to mass reproduction of success has something to do with a simple replicative system making technology beautiful and fast. In an age of technological complexity, nothing can defeat the act of inventing simple processes in order to make life easy and faster. The CEO and founder of space, Elon Musk, explains SpaceX's genius new stage separation system. Musk has never been secretive about the Starship's engineering process. He has always shown everything about his spacecraft to the public. He happens to be a man that gives room for innovative ideas from all his workers, both high and small. Nothing's more amazing than knowing and no knowledge is too small or big wherever you work. This gives room to new inventions and possibilities rather than making them centralized. What is the purpose of the Starship's new stage separation system? What impact does this have on the Mars mission? We're sure you've been thinking about all these questions. So stay tuned and watch as the answers to these questions are revealed. A few months ago, SpaceX Starship's first Super Heavy booster was geared with a hollow form of aerodynamic control surfaces known as grid fin. The massive vehicle-sized fins have been expected ever since the first Starship build-up in 2016. However, it was unexpected that the Booster 4's grid fins clearly had no retraction or deployment mechanism. It was rather fixed in a deployed position after installation. This basically means that the grid was not designed in a way that it could retract during the launching process, then deploy itself when it has reached its target orbit. Meanwhile, just a month after SpaceX performed a partial test of the mechanism meant to fasten Super Heavy 2 with Starship together, then deploy for flight, Elon Musk stated that SpaceX has also decided to remove any visible separation mechanism between the Starship and Super Heavy during separation. Rockets can be classified as multi-staged or step rockets. They are launch vehicles that use 2 or more stage rockets that contain their own engine and propellant. A serial stage is mounted on another stage. A parallel stage is attached along another stage. The result of all of this is either 2 stages attached on top of each other or 2 or more rockets attached alongside each other. Although there are rockets that can have as many as 5 stages that have been launched into space, unlike SpaceX Starship and Blue Origin's New Glenn, which are just 2-stage rockets with different separation systems. In serial staging schemes, the first stage is usually the largest and is located at the bottom. The second stage and subsequent upper stage are above it, usually decreasing and varying in size. In parallel staging schemes, solid and liquid rocket boosters are used to assist the launch, sometimes referred to as a stage 0. In the typical case, the first stage and booster engine fire to propel the entire rocket upwards. When the booster runs out of fuel, they are detached from the rest of the rocket, usually with some kind of explosive charge, and it falls away. The first stage then burns completely and falls off. This leaves a smaller rocket with the second stage at the bottom, which then fires. This is known as the rocketry cycle as staging. In some cases with serial staging, the upper stage ignites before the separation. The upper stage is designed with this in mind, and the thrust is used to help positively separate the 2 vehicles. The complexity behind the separation process of multi-stage rockets is much. This is the reason why Elon Musk goes after simplicity for his rocket Starship. This is the complicated issue about separation and why it is important to the success of a rocket flights. The separation of each portion of a multi-stage rocket introduces additional risk to the success of the launch mission. Basically, a reduction in the number of separation events results in a reduction in complexity. Separation events occur when stages or strap-on boosters separate after use, when the payload fairing separates prior to the orbital insertion, or when used a launch escape system that separates after an early phase of launch. Pyrotechnic fasteners or pneumatic systems, like on the Falcon 9 full thrust, are typically used to separate rocket stages. A pyrotechnic fastener is also known as an explosive bolt, usually a nut or a bolt that incorporates a pyrotechnic charge which can be initiated remotely. 1 or more charges deep-rooted within the bolt are typically activated by an electric current. The charge breaks the bolt into 2 or more pieces. The bolt is commonly used in space application to ensure quick and easy and reliable separation rather than the mechanical latches. More upgrades have been used recently, like the pulsed laser diodes, to detonate initiators through fiber optic cables, which subsequently fire the main charge. While the majority of rockets use a complicated pyrotechnic system of explosive bolts to separate rocket stages, SpaceX uses an all-pneumatic stage separation system. This system can be tested on the ground and also means staging is less jarring to the rocket. The SpaceX original design stage separation system had 12 attachment points. which was reduced to 3 recently. The top stage of the interstage contains a set of clamping collects that join the first and second stage during liftoff and ascent. After the first stage shuts down the colettes release, and 3 pneumatics smooth and forcefully separate the stages, clearing the second stage engine for ignition. Sidestepping decades of precedence, Musk said the Starship will have no separation mechanism at all. Instead, at some point during the design and testing process, Musk decided that a separation mechanism was entirely in excess, and that the same effect could be more or less replicated by using the existing system on Super Heavy. That is exactly what Elon Musk has finally achieved with SpaceX Starship as its new stage separation system. What is the operation of this new stage separation system? Now, utilizing the gimbal raptors on the boosters, we can effect a small but significant rotation on the rocket before separation. Because of centripetal force, a Super Heavy could literally flick a Starship away from it, similar to how SpaceX now releases Starlink satellites from Falcon by spinning the upper stage end over end and letting the spacecraft float away. This demonstrates a significant improvement in the SpaceX separation system, correct? However, the possibility of this, because Starship is almost 5 times heavier than Super Heavy at stage separation, the ship would effectively float away from the booster in a vertical and stable line. It will then use cold gas thrusters to settle this propellants, then ignites its 6 Raptor engines to head to orbit. This is genius because the ship's 6 Raptor engines are tucked away inside a skirt, meaning that there is 0 chance of nozzles being damaged by impacting the booster's interstage. It is only reasonable that any rocket that takes flight into space be separated from the other stage below, otherwise it will pull the spacecraft or become dead weight beneath the spacecraft, making it impossible for it to achieve its goal. Space firms such as SpaceX and NASA will need to land on Mars or transfer payloads to specified space stations. Consequently, if the rocket is to deliver or complete its objective, it must separate from its lower stage according to physics. The status of the Super Heavy grid fins is not dissimilar. By keeping the film at all times, SpaceX does not need to deploy a complex retraction mechanism that maintains a mechanical linkage, while still providing enough strength to push and drag a several hundred-ton rocket around at hypersonic speed. The grid fins can also be used for another purpose. It can be used as a handle for Mechazilla to be able to catch Super Heavy in midair. Elon Musk has also made it known that this wasn't his idea, but one of his employees was responsible for the design change, throwing away the popular notion that Musk is very authoritative and an inflexible chief engineer. Combined with the surprisingly 5-step approach to engineering, it is clear that there is a deal of well-considered method behind Musk's crazy surface-level behavior and SpaceX's less spontaneous decisions. Elon Musk and SpaceX are well known for removing everything that might obstruct a Starship's launch or cause harm to the Starship. We may conclude that Elon Musk and SpaceX's new brilliant stage separation mechanism is extremely remarkable and sticks out from the typical rocket separation method. What are your thoughts on Elon Musk's new genius division system? Do you believe this is anything new? And if so, how do you think it will alter the space race? Leave all of your responses and views in the comment section below.